Hey folks, Tim Newman with Soft Lite Studios bringing another daily assignment your way. Today's assignment for July 15th, 2019. Our assignment today is maximum depth of field. And hey, go figure, the opposite of what we had you do yesterday. Now remember, depth of field is a function of the focal length of your lens, your distance from the subject, and the aperture selection that you make in your exposure settings. Now today, what we'd like you to do is go out and look for scenes that are ideal for a maximum depth of field treatment. Let's take a look at a couple of sample images here. In this first sample image, we're at a workshop up at Lake Superior Provincial Park near Wawa, Ontario. And I think depth of field here being at its maximum helps us in two ways in this scene. Way number one is that we really want to see the horizon line out there in the clouds at sunset. They are an integral part of the picture. So I think it's important from that aspect. And then I think way number two here is that this maximum depth of field, or f16 in this case, really allows us to have a longer exposure time. And we couple that with a Nitze neutral density filter, and we get that nice, really smooth, creamy look to the water in this shot that we wouldn't get without that maximum depth of field. Let's take a look at another sample image here. This is in Brooklyn, New York, in an area called Dumbo, which is down underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. And there used to be a shipping pier here, and they took off the top of the pier and left all the pilings in place. I think they're going to use them again later, which would be very cool. But it makes for a fantastic scene. The leading lines here pull us right out from the shore into the water and point us over at South Seaport on the Manhattan side of the East River. And I think that the long exposure here that we get out of that f16 aperture also helps us with all of the water movement being creamy and the clouds being really soft. Really like this image because of that maximum depth of field that we're using here. All right, let's take a look at some of the elements of design that matter here. Again, we're focusing a lot on lines here. And I think we're focusing a lot on shapes here. A lot of times when you get into longer exposures, you get that smoothie, creamy look in things that are moving. So form tends to get lost in some of those cases. So I think we're still leaning over to the shape side, but maybe not quite as hard as we were with the minimum depth of field assignment. All right, let's take a look at some more sample images here. Now this is another maximum depth of field scene here, and we're not really using this for movement in the image, and we're not really using this to convey a lot of depth of field in the scene. I think the key element here with our maximum depth of field is anytime our aperture is hitting that f16 mark or smaller, we star off the aperture blades with the sun, and we get a little lens flare look here, which is exactly what we went for in the shot, and I think it works really, really well. All right, our next image. This is the train station in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Now, I will not tell you how early in the morning you need to get up to get this shot without anybody in it, but I made the sacrifice, and here we are. The maximum depth of field here really makes all of the structure here of this platform in focus, and it provides you with a tremendous sense of depth and structure in this image. So I think maximum depth of field here was clearly the way to go with this shot. And then last but not least, oops, you got to just hit the one cursor key. Oh gosh, I'm telling you, I'm challenged here this morning, but we're going with it. This is the Presbyterian Church in downtown Chicago, Illinois. And it's just a side building that's attached to the church, and I really loved the interplay of all of the arches working together here, and I really wanted that maximum depth of field to convey depth in this image in a way that I thought was best. All right, let's take a look at some of our rules of composition that we're going to be thinking about here. Rule of thirds, I think that kind of goes without saying. We tend to work that into a lot of shots. Now, that doesn't mean you always have to do that. Find some other rules if you can, but I think they were predominant in a lot of these shots. Depth of field is an important rule of composition here. Heck, just because it was the actual name of the assignment, I don't think we could skip that one. And then last but not least, geometric balance or symmetry or patterns always work well here in these shots. Let's take a look at some of the rules that we need to follow here. If you are submitting for the semi-monthly critique consideration, please use the first 5 lines as your format for exporting images from whatever your editor of choice is. And then you can see our naming standard down here where we want you to have a date, some initials from your last name, your first name, and image number. That's all explained in our Update 01 video, and there's a link for that there if you have any questions about that. Last but not least, the upload URL. This is where this image goes if you want to submit it for critique. And as always, this upload URL is provided as a clickable link down in the description. Speaking of clickable links, the subscribe button is a clickable link too. So really, just using 2 clicks, you'd be home free. All right, folks, we're out of here. And remember, as we always say, learning equals skills. Practice equals mastery. We'll see you out there.